There are more Star Wars games out there than there are theories about Snoke's true identity. Now, most of these games were made before the Disney takeover happened, and most were made by Lucasfilm's own video game developer, LucasArts. Now, LucasArts was founded in 1982 by George Lucas himself, who wants to expand Star Wars into the realm of video game entertainment. After Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012, the future was unclear for the game studio, and a year later they had effectively been shut down and most of their staff had been laid off. Looking back, that may not have been the brightest decision, as the mantle of developing Star Wars games was handed to the ever-capable EA. I mean, it's not like they've ever made a bad game, right? Now, I'm not saying that all the games that LucasArts made were classics. I'm looking at you, Rebel Assault. But there were some amazing games that came either directly from them or whilst under their license. So it got me thinking, if Disney decided to resurrect LucasArts, which games would really deserve a sequel or a remake? I've picked 5 of my favourite old Star Wars games, so let's go and take a look. This game was developed by Petroglyph Games and it was released in 2006. It's without doubt the best Star Wars real-time strategy game out there, and it was recently given a boost when the multiplayer servers were reactivated. The game has had an active community for years, and fan-made mods have really helped keep the game alive. I believe that a sequel should be a top priority. I love RTS games, and I'd love to see what could be done with modern technology and the inclusion of the sequel trilogy era. Now, apparently the devs of the first game did pitch an idea for a sequel earlier this year, but EA turned them down, because they're EA, and they hate any good idea. This was one of my favourite games on the N64. Yeah, the controls were a bit wonky, mostly due to the very wonky N64 pad, but the story was interesting, the characters were gritty, and the gameplay was really fun. Whilst Dash Rendar may no longer be canon, we have seen some tributes towards the story that was established here, notably the inclusion of the YT-2400 freighter in Rebels. Now, whilst I doubt a sequel would be possible, remaking the game in some form would be very welcome, and it would be very interesting to see how they could take the old story and meld it into the new canon. Now, this was the first Star Wars game I ever really played, and if I'm being honest, this may have actually been the thing that really got me hooked on Star Wars. The first 2 games of the series, aptly titled XWing and TIE Fighter, well, they were revolutionary in terms of simulation games in the early 90s. The graphics, whilst look very dated now, were like nothing else at the time. When X-Wing vs TIE Fighter came along, it combined the best of both games, allowing play as either a rebel or an Imperial pilot. I love being able to choose which side of the war you want to fight on, and seeing how well the space combat looks in Battlefront 2, I can only imagine how amazing a sequel or a remake of this game would be. Throw in a great single player campaign for each side, and I think I'd be sold. So, another classic N64 game that put you in the pilot seat as part of Rogue Squadron. This game was fun, there's no other word for it. The missions were simplistic and not particularly difficult, but I loved flying around the maps finding all of the little Easter eggs that had been planted around. The later editions of the game followed the story of the main saga films, and I think it would be great if we could get an updated version that also included the prequel and sequel trilogies. I'd love to be able to fly an ARC fighter during the Battle of Coruscant. So this game wasn't so much a classic because it was any good, but I feel like it deserves a second chance. Back in the 90s, button-mashing fighter games were all the rage. Some did it well, and then there was Masters of Teras. If you could ignore the fact that the lightsabers essentially just became nothing more than glowing sticks, and the controls were pretty woeful, then you might have enjoyed this game. It could have been so much better though, and I think that a Star Wars fighting game would be something so different in today's age of FPS games and RPG games. After all, wouldn't you love the chance to play as characters like Mara Jade and Hor? Yes, there really was a character called Hor. So that is just 5 of my personal favourite classic Star Wars games that I would like to see brought back. Now, I would love for you to leave a comment, let me know what games you would like to see brought back from the classic Star Wars era. If you have enjoyed the video, please leave a like, make sure that you have subscribed so you don't miss out on any more awesome content. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you for the next video.